is. Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers, Locked On Sports, The Leap, most importantly. He's with me there in the Substack universe. Peter, it's only fitting that we get together to talk a little Green Bay Packers after Jordan Love triumphs over his mentor, Aaron Rodgers. What's on your mind?
You don't want to talk about Matthew Golden's target share? That's not what you wanted to talk about? Ty, I think it was important that we remembered Jordan Love was playing in this game, because I felt like over the course of the week it had gotten forgotten. That it was all Aaron Rodgers. It's the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. There was so much time spent on, does he actually feel, is there still animosity? Does he still feel this way? All that stuff. And I'm like, you guys know Jordan Love is going to play too, right? Like, I understand in the graphics you saw Jordan Love, but like he was almost there as an afterthought. And then he goes out, and what does he do, Ty? He plays like Aaron Rodgers in front of Aaron Rodgers, who, I don't know, is he capable anymore of playing like that? Like we saw Jordan Love play 20 straight completions with something Aaron Rodgers had never done. Like that part of it is just so cool to me. And if you're not a Packers fan, you just got to be punching air, don't you? Like, how did they? I can't believe they've done it again. They've done it. Like, whether he's a Hall of Famer or not, I don't know. But he's a no doubt franchise quarterback, and that we've never seen anything like this.
Totally. And I want to get into that revenge angle, because I thought that you nailed it. I had the same exact takeaway consuming the pregame coverage. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is going to downplay this. He's as media savvy as it gets, but if we can judge him based off action and how that divorce went down. Yeah. I mean, did we not just see what we saw in 2020, 2021, 2022? And look, that's not a bad thing. Like, that's part of what makes him iconic, that ability to hold a grudge and to use slights, whether they're real or perceived, and stick it to you in a way that Brett Favre did. I mean, in those Viking games in 2009. Yeah. So, yeah, he wanted to win this game badly, I'm sure, knowing him like everybody knows him. We've seen it. But, yeah, to me, that was the story all along. Like, this was a signature moment for Jordan Love. This was his chance. Year 6 as a Packer, year 3 as a starter. He's been very, very good. For the most, year 1 strange. He starts 3-6. That loss in Pittsburgh is kind of when everything started to turn around. Yeah. Toyota-thon, best quarterback in the NFL up to that last throw in Santa Clara. Year 2, the injuries absolutely affected his athleticism. He didn't play well at times either. But now it's like year 3. Okay, like they kind of, play with their food a little bit against some bad teams. They pull him out, though. He makes plays. But the entire country is watching this game. Aaron Rodgers is on the other sideline. Jordan Love doesn't say much in his press conferences. You could tell afterward, couldn't you? This game meant a little something extra to him. How could there not be nerves in this one? And he has the game of his life. This is a Jordan Love story, 100% to me as well.
Well, and guess what? Jordan Love made it a Jordan Love story, because if the game keeps going the way that it went in the first half, it would have been an Aaron Rodgers story. It was 16-7 at halftime. The Packers offense, they missed 2 field goals. You mentioned the playing with their food thing. Like, on the drive where they scored, they just marched right down the field and score. They made it look easy. And I don't even think they had a third down on that drive. And so you're just sort of like, okay, why can't you keep doing that? And they in the second half, they come out and they score on 5 straight possessions. And Jordan is just whipping the ball all over the field. And then he makes 2 just like plays purely because he has the ability by prestidigitation to conjure these things out of nothing, like the quarterbacks before him were able to do. I think the funny thing about the constant comparisons with Aaron Rodgers is I think Love has more Favre in him than Rodgers. And there is a little bit like Justice Mosqueda, likes to, like, when Jordan will make one of those just like bozo plays, which are becoming fewer and farther between, right? He's only got 2 interceptions on the year. Justice will tweet out something like, okay, Brett, because it does feel like that sometimes. Like, I remember the joke in the mid 90s when Brett Favre was winning MVP after MVP, it was like, he needs to get hit. He would not play well until he took his first shot. And then it was like, he would just get that initial thing out of his, I remember sitting, I'm 9 years old watching Brett Favre play. But I vividly remember my parents going, he's just got to get hit. He's just got to get hit. Like someone, like, come on, Warren Sapp, come get him. Someone hit him because then he'll lock in. And sometimes it does feel like that watching Jordan. Like he'll just make the most incredible throw, like the deep out route to Christian Watson at the end of the first half, where he 7-step drop from the gun and just lasers an out route, perfect timing, perfect rhythm. Like those are the plays that make you go, oh wow, like there is a special talent here. And Ty, I have to give you credit, not just because we're friends and you're having me on your show. You were early on the Jordan Love, like this is gonna work and he's gonna be great. And here he is playing like this. Like it's a special thing that he was able to will this. I think it's the best game Jordan Love has ever played. Like maybe college included. Just given the stakes, given the narrative, on the road in Pittsburgh, not an easy place to play. I was so impressed with Jordan Love. And I'm glad you mentioned 2023. To a man, coaches, players will point to that Pittsburgh game in 2023 that they lost, by the way, as the turning point in the team perception of Jordan Love. That they go, oh, he can do more than we realized. He is even better than we realized in a game they lost. That's a pretty remarkable place to be.
No doubt. I was there covering that game, and it was weird because there were some really promising moments, but it ended with, was it the pick,
an interception
up the sideline before that to Watson, and then the interception at the end of the game.
Yeah. Two late interceptions.
I'm totally with you though on the Favre comps. I mean, we, like most people that are in their mid to late 30s, we all grew up watching Brett Favre.
We're getting later in our 30s, Ty. We got to stop staying mid, I think.
I know. Soon. I'm almost 40 years old. That's so true. Being kind to myself. But you're right though. I mean, I can remember watching those games. He just had to take a shot, or maybe he is the one hitting another player himself.
He'd run into somebody.
There had to be some kind of physical contact for him to mentally lock in and be in the game. As a
Andrew Luck was kind of like that too, where he needed to have that risky moment, or he either it was like a ball he should never have thrown, or like he takes on a linebacker in the hole and it's just and then he gets up and he's fine and he's Andrew Luck again. Like there are some similarities there, I think.
Yeah, and I remember talking to Favre into last season, and he saw a lot of Jordan Love in himself. And how did that season end for Jordan Love at Santa Clara? It was a very Favrean throw across the body. And that's the kind of stuff, his private quarterback coach, friend of the show, Steve Calhoun, like he guards against. He's been coaching him nonstop, like no fadeaways, no fallaways. Like you're not Aaron. I know you've seen Aaron because Aaron and Brett, they do a lot of the same stuff. Like it's what isn't taught to a T. Like it's not in the tutorial. You don't play quarterback that way. You don't fall away. You don't throw on the run across your body into traffic. But he's got that ability. Like he did it at Utah State. That's why COC Mariner hearkened Patrick Mahomes. Instead of the stuff that you see Mahomes doing, he was doing before Mahomes.
That Watson throw on Sunday night, that was a Mahomes throw.
That's what I'm getting to. Like that throw, I could just see Steve watching this from afar, Calhoun, early in Jordan's career, and it would make him cringe. He would want to coach that out of him. Eyes. But he's in that place now where, hell, you're rolling right, you're scrambling right. You see that flash, that number 9, and you're going to give him a shot. And how to just kind of like torque. It's hard to even describe. Like his body is at an angle. He's like sideways. And I mean, Collinsworth is right. It is kind of like a Frisbee throw. He just kind of Frisbees it 40, 45 yards in the air to Watson down inside the 5. To me, that was the play of the night. There are many. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, the first third down of the game was that they converted was that it looked on the telecast like a heave. If you watch the all 22 of it's Tucker Kraft is running a quarter route from a stacked formation, and the corner is I think it's a safety is in good position, and it's a heavy pressure look. Josh Jacobs picks it up, but like it still leaks through because there's just too many bodies, and Love has to double clutch and just fires one kind of a back shoulder. I don't know that like if you can even throw a corner back shoulder, but it is a corner route that he throws to the inside because there's no safety in the middle of the field. So he has that space and he's just trusting Tucker Kraft to go make a play. And those are the moments where it's like, that's a risky throw because it's a trust throw, not because you're putting the ball in harm's way. Like the DB never really has a chance to make a play on the ball.
Yeah.
And the same is true of the Watson throw, where Watson has won on his route, that post, but Jordan Love's got to move to his right. And now he's trying to throw back. I don't know that he ever sees the backside safety. I don't know that he knows that that guy is there. But if he does, he's right to see that the safety's flat footed and he's up. And so if I put this ball over him, he's going to have a hard time getting there. And he dives and leaps and tries to make a play. He never really is in close to position to make a play on the ball. And those are the plays. Like, how many times do you watch Patrick Mahomes tie and you're like, he throws the ball in the air, you see like everybody leaves the screen, so you can't really see what's happening, and you're like, there's no way this is not intercepted. And then like two safeties run into each other, the corner falls down, and Tyquan Thornton is catching it, and it's a 45-yard play. You're just like, that's just sort of, some guys just sort of have that ability to throw it just exact. It doesn't have to be pretty. This one had dog ears on it, and it's exactly where it needs to be. And those special plays where it's just sort of like he willed it to be the perfect throw. Those are the really special moments for this team. And when Jordan Love plays like this, like, they can beat anybody.
It's rooted in patience too. Brian Gutekunst, he made the pick the way that the Packers are structured. Matt LaFleur did his homework as well. But obviously, famously, infamously, everybody kind of knows how that went down at that point. He's finding out late in the game. However you slice it, though, like, they knew when we draft Jordan Love isn't going to start week 1 in 2020, week 10 in 2020, or in 2021, or even in 2022. They knew that this was going to take time, but they knew he'd work his ass off. They knew how he was mentally wired, and they knew he could make those kind of plays. So it's a calculated gamble. So what stood out to me, I wrote about it at the site, is you've got two teams with two quarterbacks, two polar opposite philosophies when it comes to how you win in professional football. I mean, the Steelers, and part of me loves it, Pete. Like, I love the fact that Mike Tomlin gets this team to fight and win games they have no business winning. Like, even this year in Foxborough, watching that game, like, they shouldn't have won that game, especially when you see what Drake May's doing now. He wasn't fully formed yet, but
five turnovers helps.
5 turnovers. I mean, Cam Hayward is punching the ball out of Ramondre Stevenson at the 1 as he's going in for a touchdown. He's tipping a ball that's picked in the end zone. That's a 14-point swing, and it's no accident. Like, the Steelers make these kind of plays. But look, if you really look back at it, when they had Ben Roethlisberger, they had their own Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
First in 2018, Lamar Jackson falls right to them, and they take Terrell Edmonds as a DB. It would have been that next year is when Roethlisberger has the season-ending elbow injury. They start 1-4, and to their credit, they decide to trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, trade a first-round pick. They fight like hell with Devlin the Duck Hodges. That same year, like, they have a coach in training camp die. That has an effect on the team. There's no Antonio Brown that year, no Le'Veon Bell, no reason their replacements get hurt, no reason they should be winning games, and yet they're in the playoff hunt all the way up to the end. In that last game, they were still alive for a playoff spot when they lost, where it's like, okay, you don't need to tank. Like, you don't need to fire up the tanks, but maybe you don't trade a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Or even if you do, maybe you take Jalen Hurts instead of Chase Claypool. Like, you have to have the scouting foresight to know 2020 is a special quarterback class. And when a GM is in charge, like Brian Gutekunst, he talked about it way back then, like, this is a special group of quarterbacks, and you've got to strike while the iron's hot, because if you do that and you've got the balls to take a quarterback and piss off your Hall of Fame quarterback and Aaron Rodgers, like, it's got to pay off in the long haul. Like, the Steelers did not want to piss off Ben Roethlisberger, and they waited and waited and waited until, now we need a quarterback, and this is one of the worst quarterback classes in NFL history. And
the worst time to take a quarterback is when you need one, because you, for that exact reason, right? You are at the mercy of the class. And so you never know what you're going to get in a draft class. And every year, what do we say every year, Ty? Well, next year, that's the draft class. And then guess what? It's not.
Right.
Or rarely. I mean, eventually it has to be, right? The law of big numbers. But, you're not going to get 2020 all the time. Look at the 2024 class. Like, the Bears, they take Caleb Williams over Drake May and Jaden Daniels. And right now that looks like a big mistake. Look at, I mean, Drake May's an MVP candidate. Jaden Daniels was an MVP candidate last year, and Caleb Williams is just sort of figuring it out. I mean, you've written more than anybody probably about some of the issues and whatever Ben Johnson is trying to do there. I want to ask you this time. I'm glad we're here today. Um, what do you think in Aaron Rodgers' heart of hearts he truly felt at 8:24 Sunday night, right before the game is about to kick off?
Before the game's about to get kicked off, he he's thinking he's going to win this game,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
he's full of
But I mean, like in
self-belief.
terms of like, what is he feeling nostalgic? Is he feeling gratitude?
Oh, I got you.
Is he feeling vengeful? Is he like, what do you think is the balance of emotions that he's feeling in that moment?
I'm sure that there is some genuine gratitude. Like we're not just sitting here and completely overlooking that. I mean, we saw he's hugging equipment uh, managers and trainers and Matt LaFleur. Like there were real relationships there. They won a lot of games. There's a lot of good, but like it ended the way it ended. Like he didn't
Yeah.
get to leave on his terms,
Hmm.
right? Like in the Packers, it was messy on their end too. Like they tried to do the whole Costanza, it's not you, it's me routine. Like they knew what they were dealing with. This is a very volatile Hall of Fame player who is going into the darkness. Like they didn't want to just come out.
Did you see the research is now that the darkness retreats are actually bad for you? Andrew Huberman did a
Is that
thing on
right?
that about how, yeah, he was like, you don't want to do it. Like, don't do it.
I
Anyway,
mean,
sorry, I derailed you.
McGinn had the report at our site, like while he was in the darkness retreat, that the Packers are done with Aaron Rodgers. Like they are going to turn the page
Oh,
to Jordan
oh,
Love.
I remember.
And yeah, it was. Oh yeah, I was just going through some of those old bookmarks. It was interesting to see some of those.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they were ready to move on after that Lions loss. And so, anyways, like Aaron knows all of this. He in his head, he can still produce. He's still an All Pro. He's still going to go out there and make the plays he's always made. And they said no. There's the door. And he goes to the Jets, and he gets everything he wants. Wasn't that funny to hear Tirico and Collinsworth just kind of gloss over? The culture wasn't really right with the Jets, and the culture's right there at Pittsburgh.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I
I
was
get it. Like Woody
dying
Johnson
laughing
is
when I
one
said
of
that.
the
I was
worst
like, you
owners
guys
in
know who
sports.
set the culture in New York, right? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they got his OC. They signed his buddies. They changed the offense. They fired Saleh. They traded for Devontae Adams. They screw up all that. They did everything he wanted.
There's Ty, I was struck by there's this old I don't know if there's actually an ethnic origin to it, but I always heard that it was a Chinese curse. And it's a curse is may you get everything you ever wanted. And I think that that's what happened, right? He got everything he wanted that he was not getting in Green Bay. They did everything he said. Oh, you want Alan Lazard? You want Devontae Adams? You want Robert Saleh fired? You want all the control and all the power? Okay, here it is. And look what happened. It turns out having a structure, having a culture, having a history, having a competent organization running things and not catering to your every whim is actually the better system. And so I asked you this question because I believe Aaron Rodgers realized what he wanted was not ultimately the best thing. And I don't think he regrets it because I do think he wanted out. But I do believe him when he says, I look back on that time fondly because I think his time in his 2 years in New York made him appreciate the Packers exponentially more than he did in 2021, in 2022, and at the end in 2023. There's no question in my mind that's true because how could it not be true? Like his experience in Green Bay is truly special because
Yeah.
there is no place like Green Bay. You know this. Like you've been there, you've covered that team. It is a special place. And he was a special player in that organization. And so I think two things can be true. I think he wanted like hell to beat the crap out of the Packers. But he also felt fondly about his time there. And you can we've all been in relationships like that, right? Ty, like you understand I should not be with that person anymore. But that doesn't mean that I can't remember and be nostalgic about the times that we enjoyed together. And you can still want to have the revenge body and you still want to be posting on Instagram that you look sick and that you're doing well and you're not thinking about that, whatever it is. And and we shouldn't, right? We shouldn't be petty like that, but it's a human emotion. And I do think we can hold those things together. And I know people will think that we're going to come on here and just bash him and say he's an asshole and, whatever. Sorry if you have to bleep that. But like, I don't think that we can ever paint Aaron Rodgers as one of anything. He's not a monolith in any way. And
Well
that's
said.
what makes
Yeah.
him such a compelling character.
I remember when I started covering the Packers full time at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel 2011. There was another
God, what a season
media
for you
member.
to
I don't.
cover.
Oh yeah, that was yeah, I loved it out there. I loved the job. I mean, you know why I loved it? Like the readers and the listeners. I mean, they all like even to this day they kind of feel like your boss. Like they want a blog post on the fourth string tight end. They're gonna eat up anything. You can't give them enough. And I could feel that right away.
Yeah.
But there was
I
somebody
mean,
who
that's
covered
why
the
you
team.
left and came back, right? Ultimately.
Yeah, so yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, I left to USA Today for like all of 6 or 7 days
Yeah.
in 2012 and kept going at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I always just kind of skim past that. I forget about it myself. But yeah, it was a special place, man. I loved living out there. I was close to really putting the roots down and living out there for good, long term. It was close. But there was somebody who said, look, Aaron Rodgers is somebody who covered the team a long time. He is a chameleon, right? Like you cannot put him in a box. And
Yeah.
the way you just described it is 100% true. I think he wanted to stick it to the GM, Brian Gutekunst,
For sure.
no doubt. Like he wanted him fired that offseason. He tried to win a
Did we
power
see one
struggle,
shot
and
of
he
Brian
failed.
Gutekunst on the broadcast?
Not one shot.
I didn't.
Right.
I didn't see one.
Not even a bit character in the narration of this game for NBC, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that can be true. Like that is true, and it's also true. He gets it. Like he knows he'll be remembered as the four-time MVP, the 2010 Super Bowl champ, all the accolades, all of the numbers. He'll have a street named after him. They'll be like he'll go back there and be beloved, and all the memories will come back. He gets all that, and I do think he appreciates the good times. Like there's like you're right. Both can exist in the same universe here, but in the now. He's the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're in first place in the AFC North. The AFC, you've got Burrow down, Lamar was down. We'll see
Yeah.
what the Ravens become. The Bills are going through their issues. Like there's an opportunity for anything to happen. So before the game, he's thinking, I'm going to have the game of my life. And they were up 16-7 in the third quarter. It was third down. Jordan Love's got Patrick Queen in his face. Tucker Kraft, a little craftsmanship, maybe. I'm sure the Steelers fans would call it something else. Just a little contact to get a little separation.
I didn't think it was
And that
offensive
play
pass
changed
interference.
everything.
But
What's that?
I said I didn't think he got away with a push. I think that was pretty normal play. Like
Yes.
the DB has no idea where the ball is, and Kraft is basically just like letting him go by. It was one of those to me. Like I don't think he pushed him by any means, but
There should be a little both ways. You should be allowed to have
those are
a little bit.
those are like I think that's just football. Like you could say on the drive before that, right? They missed Devontae Wyatt offside, but they also missed Broderick Jones offside on a false start. Like, two drives before that, in one of the worst false starts I've ever seen not called. He's out. Like it looked like he was in pre-snap motion, Ty. Like that's how bad it was. So look, the officiating was not the reason anyone lost the game or won the game. I don't want to fall too far down that rabbit hole, but that was in the midst of the 20 straight completions. Like that started in the second quarter, and you watch the varied levels of things that Jordan Love did to make sure that Aaron Rodgers is not the story. I mean, it is rare that when Rodgers goes into the game as the story, he doesn't also come out as the story because of like even when he didn't play well, like 2021, one of the stories coming out of that playoff loss was Aaron Rodgers didn't do enough, didn't play well enough. Well, it wasn't in this game, mostly because Jordan Love was just that great. Like I don't think there was anything Aaron Rodgers was going to do on Sunday night that was going to beat the Packers the way Jordan Love was playing. That the Steelers defense just has no recourse at this point. Like I can't remember a defense like this in the Mike Tomlin era.
The worst in 19 years. I don't even think that's exaggerating a thing. They were atrocious, and it's the richest defense in the NFL. I mean, they've been pouring.
Are people ready to have the Mike Tomlin conversation yet?
Man,
I mean, he hasn't won a playoff game like in a long time and hasn't won a playoff game against a real quarterback in even longer. Like I think Obama was president the last time it happened.
It it pains me, man. I love Mike Tomlin. I love the
I do too.
Steelers. It's old school football. It's a different world when you walk into that locker room. Like I've said it a few times. I'll never forget working on this Bleach Report story a few years back, and it's like Vince Williams and James Harrison, and these guys are just walking by you, and it just looks like if you look at them wrong, they might just punch you in the jaw. And in that world, that's allowed. That's okay. And
Yeah.
I just respect that. And it's this defense is not that defense. And maybe that Mike Tomlin conversation has to be had. I don't know. I think you let this play out. Here's my question for you, though, to kind of drive this forward before we sign off, Peter. Leroy Butler, over the offseason, we talked about, and he was all in on the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. He had them in the Super Bowl. But when it came to the Packers and Jordan Love, his point was to Matt LaFleur, give him the keys. Give him the keys to the offense. I got the quote here. He said, that's how you do Jordan Love. Give him the keys. You're still in the car. You're in the car. Let him drive. Like and this is a tricky balance because year 3, when Aaron Rodgers is having the historic MVP season on the heels of winning the Super Bowl, that's kind of when he started to really do his own thing a lot of the time because it was needed, right? Mike McCarthy had his offense and it was very matchup based and there was a lot of good there, but Aaron Rodgers would stray from it. And that's when you got a lot of the big plays. And eventually over time, it did go off the rails and they had to move on several years later. So what is that balance with Jordan Love? Because I feel like you're paying him $55 million a year, but too often watching these Packer games, he's treated like he's making $15 million a year. And there is with Josh Jacobs and with the need to bring that physicality, like there is a lot of good with that. There is substance there. That is a brand of Packer football that has been missing. But man, you watch what Jordan Love did against Pittsburgh now with those 20 straight completions, and it's not dinking and dunking. It is driving the ball down the field.
Yeah.
It is often with defenders in his face. You're Matt LaFleur, and now you're getting healthier at receiver. That's the next step of this evolution, right? Like giving him the keys,
It
letting
has to
him
be.
do more.
And what's interesting is if you look at neutral pass rates, so first and second down when the game is still in doubt, the Packers' neutral pass rate has fallen every single season. I think Matt LaFleur has just sort of retreated may be an uncharitable word, but has become more conservative in the way that he's called the offense every single year. And that includes like from Aaron Rodgers' MVP season to his next MVP season. And so part of that, I think, is Matt LaFleur just wants to be more balanced. And it's why they have the egalitarian offense that they do right now, Ty, because they saw what happened in 2021 when they were so Devontae Adams centric that it was not hard for the 49ers to take that away. We're going to take Devontae out, and we don't think you're going to throw to anybody else. And that's why they lost a playoff game. And I think Matt LaFleur said, we will never live that way again. And in 2021, that team could not run teams out of too high defenses. And so if you can't run on light boxes, you're kind of screwed. So I think that he wants to be a physical team. He wants to be more. And Jeff Hafley talked about this. I love that line from Jeff Hafley that Chris Collinsworth relayed on the broadcast that was like, watch the way the piles are moving.
Yeah.
We want them to be going backward, and on offense, we want them to be going forward. We want to be the more physical team. And I love that about Matt LaFleur. He doesn't seem like, I think you and I have talked about this, like our pal Grant Bills over Bill Michaels, producer, and he does a radio show in Wisconsin again. He has this theory that if Matt LaFleur looked like Dan Campbell, he would already have a statue in Green Bay. But that because Matt LaFleur looks like a J. Crew model, that there's a perception of him that is a different kind of thing. He's an old school football coach. He believes in running the ball. He believes in smash mouth power football. But the second half changed, Ty, when they started letting Jordan Love cook. And I think they have to lean into that on early downs, 26 passes, 23 runs against the Steelers. Even in a game, Jordan Love is balling. You need to find like modern day balance is more like 30-20, I think, not 26-23. And so if they can find that and be efficient running the ball, I think that's the optimal position for this Packers team, because you don't want to take away the run game, because the play action game, the Packers are a top 3 play action offense in the league. You want Jordan Love hunting those explosives, creating those big plays. But when the running game is not working, Mike McCarthy, you were there for this. I said this during the game. I was like, they need to go full McCarthy. If on the first two drives the run game's not going, McCarthy said, "All right, Aaron, it's your day." And they would call 4 runs the rest of the game, and it would just let B. Aaron Rodgers cook. I think the Packers need to lean into something a little bit similar to that, where they're just like, look, we're going to try and establish the run early. If we can't, it's Jordan Love's time. And they found the balance in the second half of the game. And I'm excited to see where they go from here.
And even I think that the layer on top of that is the ability to change a play at the line of scrimmage.
He
You
looked in
know,
full control on,
how,
on Sunday, didn't he? I mean, he was constantly hand signals,
yes,
can calls, getting into the right play every time.
this was phenomenal. Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers podcast, The Leap. I'm sorry,
That's
that's
all right.
Substack. Make sure you subscribe to all the above. Thanks so much for hanging out. Let's do it again soon.
All right, man. Good to talk to you as always.
He's my friend. He's your friend. He's the great Matthew Coller of Purple Insider. We've had him on the podcast many times. You hear his guitar riff every episode. He's the one jamming out. I have to give you credit every time I have you on because it's a jam. And I was going back and listening to past jingles, and I want to keep asking you for new ones because they're great. I just want more. But thanks for doing that, and thanks for joining us.
Well, I'd love to have a platform to do some jamming on. I'm very much like a bedroom guitarist. And actually, once upon a time when I was in high school, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional musician. And obviously, I decided to do this instead. But I have kept up with, recording music, and I've got my little recording studio and everything, but I don't have many opportunities to use it for good. So being able to make podcast intros for you has been an honor, and I'm glad that it actually has some listeners. So I really appreciate it.
Let's get right to it. JJ McCarthy.
Mm.
What in the hell do we make of the Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback now, right? Carson Wentz is done. There's no more trying to read between lines. And is he hurt? How hurt is he? I think you've got the boots on the ground. You have the facts. You can separate fact from fiction, but that's kind of all old news now. Like, he's the quarterback. I guess we're going to find out what in the hell he is. What is he to you?
Yeah, I mean, it is old news, but it also has relevancy because, a lot of the world thought that he was benched for Carson Wentz, which was not the case. But I think that there has been a very concerted effort from Kevin O'Connell to make sure that when he brings back JJ McCarthy, he's doing so at the highest level of health that he could possibly be. And it also has been altered by their schedule. They went overseas for 2 straight weeks, the first team to ever do that, probably the last team to ever do that, considering how some of the things went over there. That was problematic for his recovery, and he dealt with some swelling in the ankle, and then they come all the way back. Then they have their bye week, and they get some work done in their bye week. But then you have a game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Right after that, you're playing on Thursday night. And I think with half of a game plan and maybe not 100%, and what Kevin O'Connell has said is that he wants to have full mobility for JJ McCarthy to be able to run and escape, because that's going to be a big part of his game. It was in the first 2 games. And I think you're going to see a lot of scrambling and running from JJ McCarthy, especially with the lack of experience that he has overall, that if he's not seeing it right away, get out of the pocket, get a few yards, try to get a first down, and go from there. So the explanation was pretty straightforward, that you didn't want to, put him out there at less than 100% to recover from this. And, the example that kept getting brought up was Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's like, get out of here. I mean, you're talking about the greatest quarterback of the generation in the biggest game with no game after that. Yeah, of course, Patrick Mahomes is going to play in the Super Bowl with the high ankle sprain. But do you really want your guy making his 3rd career start, or maybe even overseas? Is that what you want against Myles Garrett with backup offensive tackles playing? I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, some of the logic that people have deployed with this thing. But in terms of what he can be, I mean, that's the rest of the season for the Minnesota Vikings, is finding out that answer. Because, you look at Bo Nix, and I looked at this stat last night. Bo Nix has dropped back to pass in the NFL 933 times. JJ McCarthy, 55. I mean, that's through their careers since being drafted. I don't know how many it is for Drake May, Caleb Williams, but the 2024 draft class is all gotten to get onto the field, gotten to play, gotten experience. And because of the meniscus tear and then the ankle injury, JJ McCarthy has just not had that, which is a major setback in terms of development as well. So, a part of this is finding out how good JJ McCarthy is, because I think the season, when you look at the NFC, is essentially lost. There's just way too many teams that you have to jump over. Of the Buffalo Sabres in late April or something, when they get on a 5-game winning streak, hey, they're only 6 points out of a playoff spot. And it's like, no, they have like 4 or 5 teams to jump over there. So they're probably not going to be able to make it. It feels that way for the Vikings, where there's way too much of a gap to make up. They have some really difficult opponents on the way, including Detroit. So this is all about finding out how good McCarthy can be, and also getting him on the field and starting that development process that we've been waiting for and waiting for and waiting for. And it's been absolutely brutal for everybody. It's been brutal for him. It's been brutal for the coaches and the team, as you watch Sam Darnold play well, as you watch Aaron Rodgers play pretty well. If Pittsburgh defense could stop anybody, they'd be winning some more games. I mean, you're watching Daniel Jones play really well. It's like all these guys, including Bo Nix, that the Vikings could have had, and the guy that you selected just hasn't been able to get on the field. So this is an exciting week, I think, for the entire organization to have him coming back. And what they wanted to do was give him the best chance to succeed as he returned, because if they did push him out there too early and he's trying to play the whole rest of the season on an ankle that's not at least healed enough to start this next game, then you're talking about not even getting a good sample size of what he can really be. And they have to be able to now figure that out, as I think the competitive portion of the season has already come to an end.
That's fascinating. I didn't really thought of the big picture, and you lay it out perfectly, Matt, because it is so true. Like everybody's so consumed with every injury report, all the minutia. What is this player doing in this practice to play in this game, because this game is so important? But I think it is a credit to Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to know, big picture, we made this big bet and there's no going back. That you can't go back and pay Sam Darnold instead of all those players on the offensive and defensive lines. You can't go back and say, oh, Daniel Jones, we had him here. He was here for quarterback rehab, like Sam Darnold was in San Francisco for quarterback rehab, and we helped turn his career around, and maybe he is lighting it up. You can't look back. So, like, you are all in on JJ McCarthy. You want JJ McCarthy in full, or as close as it's close to 100% as you can get him. So that makes a lot of sense to kind of wait, even if it's at the expense of pissing the season away, right? And falling down in the NFC North standings. He's too important. You passed on so much, and this is your option. You've got to roll with it, and there's no turning back. So why would you just trot him out there if it wasn't ready, the ankle?
Right. And there's a funny thing about it, and I didn't expect it to turn out this way, but it's turned out to be true, that had they brought back Sam Darnold, had they signed Aaron Rodgers with the team the way that it's actually ended up playing out, it's pretty hard to argue that that would have worked out well, because so many of the signings that they made have not played out the way that they expected. Brian Flores' defense has been nowhere close to what we thought it was going to be. It has essentially collapsed and is now one of the weaker defenses in the NFL. And if they were having Sam Darnold out there with Christian Darrisaw mostly injured for this season, Brian O'Neill has gotten injured. They lost Ryan Kelly for the year, and they haven't been able to run the football very well. I mean, it's just really hard to say, oh, well, if they had franchise tagged Sam Darnold and he came back, that they would have been a legitimate contender. So you would have spent a year with Darnold. Now, maybe that would have been better for JJ McCarthy to just sit and develop, as opposed to getting hurt again and not being able to develop behind the scenes. Maybe that would have been better to have a Jordan Love type of that last Aaron Rodgers season where they go, 9-8, and they missed the playoffs. And, it was a big disappointment, but Jordan Love got a lot of development along the way behind the scenes that year. Maybe that would have been better, but at the end of the season, if you simulate it in your mind with Sam Darnold, it's pretty hard to see them being better than the Packers or better than the Lions or really even close, even if Darnold played good football. Even if he was the 10th or 12th best quarterback in the league behind a struggling offensive line, but he's got Jefferson and Addison and KOC, and maybe he's performing better. But what are they, 4-3 right now instead of 3-4, with the way that their offensive line has been banged up and the way their defense is played? And where does that really get you as a franchise? You're much better off seeing, at least if JJ McCarthy could play the rest of the year, getting 12 games out of him, getting him actually on the field, and starting to see what you have. Now, I mean, that's I'll admit to a little bit of twisted logic there, because they would definitely be better defensively if they could stay on the field with their quarterback position. It's been about the 28th best quarterback play in the league as a whole, with between Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy. But I just think that a short-term decision with Darnold probably wouldn't have changed a whole lot of the fate of the Vikings just being overall a disappointment, based on how many of their moves, how many of the bets that they made in the offseason have not overall played out. And if they had gone and gotten Rodgers, I mean, I think that this would be almost exactly the same, because, well, he could still sling it. We see that every week, that he makes one or two throws where you go, whoa, Rodgers still got that big arm. But is that guy taking you over the top right now? Like, probably not. I mean, mostly he's throwing 5-yard passes to DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, Daniel Jones, same thing. Like, the Daniel Jones' success is very clearly built off of great offensive line, MVP performance from Jonathan Taylor. The Vikings aren't getting that from their team. They haven't been healthy enough on the O-line to get the full version. They haven't been able to play defensively like the Colts have. They haven't been able to run the football pretty much ever since Kevin O'Connell got here. So there's a lot of, hey, you should have done this, that. The one that might maybe drive everybody nuts is if Bo Nix wins that division. That's going to be, because it was right there. It was between McCarthy and Nix, and you go with the kid who hadn't played much. But I think that any comparison to any of these decisions should be held off until we actually start to see what JJ McCarthy can really do.
Let's to rattle off those contracts. Byron Murphy, 3 years, 54. That's a 18 mil a year. Will Fries, the guard, was 5 years, 87.72. That's 17.5 mil a year. Jonathan Allen, D tackle, 3 years, 51 mil. That's 17 a year. Javon Hargrave was 2 years, 30, 15 a year. Ryan Kelly, the center, talk about injuries, 2 years, 18 mil. Isaiah Rodgers, the corner, he had that amazing game, right? He's pick six in every other drive, it seemed like. It was 2 years, 11 mil. So throw Eric Wilson in there too. Forgot about him. He's been kicking around forever. So yeah, they've a lot of money. And I think that for all the quarterback talk, that's the real story here. I just assumed that the Vikings roster, which looked damn good last year, got better with all of this money. It didn't get better. It got worse.
Yeah, and this is sort of the reality of the NFL. Sometimes is building through free agency seems safer, but it isn't always. I mean, it can be just as random as the draft. Last year, they signed Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, and one more I'm forgetting. But I mean, just those three. Like, holy cow. Like, those are three superstar players that they went and got in free agency, and all of them were underrated, and they turned out to be great. And this year they think, well, we'll just do the same thing, and we'll go out and we'll sign these free agents, and we'll spend the money around the rookie quarterback contract, which is something we've seen succeed many times. I mean, if you go back to Kevin O'Connell wasn't with the Rams in 2017, but I'm sure he knows that when Sean McVay took over, they signed Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, maybe traded for Woods, and Andrew Whitworth, and a number of other free agent players to put around Jared Goff. And it worked great. And that team took a huge step forward. They had the franchise left tackle to block for the young kid. And Todd Gurley was up and coming at the time. And they were able to give him wide receivers to throw to. And all of a sudden, you got a great offense around that scheme. So it's worked many times. I mean, even if you go back to that same year when Carson Wentz's Eagles win with Nick Foles, that team signed Torrey Smith, Elshon Jeffrey, like a lot of older Patrick Robinson, Ron Darby, like a lot of older players that they
LeGarrette
went.
Blunt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they went and signed a bunch of older players, and veteran players know how to win. A lot of times when you get deep into the playoffs, it's older and veteran teams. The philosophy was there, but the players have just not paid off those bets. And I also think that when you do sign players with injury histories and you do sign players that have had recent declines in play, like Javon Hargrave, like Jonathan Allen, you're kind of taking your life in your hands a little bit there. And those are guys who had been really poor at stopping the run in recent years. They hadn't put up the type of pressure numbers in recent years that they did in their primes. And they were hoping, hey, if it's 75% of that guy's prime, it'll be pretty good. And I do think in a different world, that might have been okay. Like in a world where JJ McCarthy is great and they're playing with 14-point leads and they could pin their ears back and they could just go after the passer time and time again. But here's a crazy stat for you. As of last week, the Vikings had faced the second fewest number of pass attempts against because they've been losing all season long. So because they can't score as an offense. So these things play together. We often treat it like, and I'm sure Rex Ryan's Bills could sort of attest to this, but we often treat it like it is offense over here and defense over here, and you are two unconnected, unrelated items. That is not how it actually works. Because if your offense is struggling to move the football and you're getting 3 and outs and you're getting sacks and all the time, and you're constantly giving the football to the other team, and then they've got the lead. I mean, in Philadelphia, it's a 14-3 lead. The Chargers are up right away. And like, what can they do? They could just hand off to Kamani Vidal. They can only throw when it feels good to throw, when they've got the right look to throw, because there's no pressure whatsoever. Philadelphia, they could take deep play action shots because who cares if you make a mistake? You're leading in the game. So I think that they've played into each other. But also, just to tie it into, I know a lot of your audience is Buffalo related. It does remind me of when the Bills went out and they acquired a bunch of players. For some reason, Charles Clay is really coming to mind here as being like one of their big offseason, right? Remember, they spent all that one offseason, but they didn't have the quarterback situation settled. And so all these players they brought in, I think Incognito was part of that. And they built a roster that if you look top to bottom, you're like, there's
Shady McCoy.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Big moves.
Percy Harvin.
But the quarterback position was not resolved. And so Tyrod Taylor, who, I think everybody loves Tyrod Taylor, but he's a backup caliber 500 type quarterback. And you got that type of performance. So what the Vikings needed here, and this is why people who completely dismiss QB wins, you're like, I don't know, that position is really connected to just about everything on the field. Last year, you get top 10 quarterback play. You're playing from ahead. And all of a sudden, those Brian Flores blitzes are terrifying to the opposing team when they're down 14 and they've got to throw every play. And now, like, I don't care if you blitz, we're just going to hand off all day. And we're not worried about that because we're ahead in the game. So I think a lot of things have gone downhill, not just, hey, they spent the money and all those players didn't live up to expectation, but there's also reasons for that are tied into not being able to play JJ McCarthy, the starting quarterback of your team. And you know this as well as I do. I mean, when you get to backup quarterback land, it's ugly. Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, like look around the league. How often do you have backup quarterbacks come in and give you a chance to win? It's not very much.
In theory, on paper, yes, it looks glorious when you've got that rookie quarterback contract. You get that player on the cheap, that very important player on the cheap, and you can go out and spend like the Vikings did. Another team that went out and spent this past offseason, New England. Milton Williams, $26 million a year. Diggs, $21.1 million a year. Carlton Davis, $18 million a year. Harold Landry, $14.5 million a year. Robert Spillane, $11 million a year. Morgan Moses, $8 million. Garrett Bradbury, an ex-Viking at center. Mac Hollins. So, all right, what's the takeaway though? Drake May's an MVP candidate.
Right.
Drake May is unbelievable. And you watch these Patriot games, every throw is on the money. This Browns game, I get it. The Browns are the Browns. It's the number 1 ranked defense. They got after him. They're hitting him. They're sacking him. The coverage is tight on the back end. And what did Drake May do? He just kept putting the ball exactly where it had to be. And now they're 6-2. He's an MVP candidate. So that's the thing. Like, okay, the Vikings make all these moves. most of them aren't working out. It still boils down to JJ McCarthy. And maybe if there's some hope out there for Viking fans, and it's very imperfect because the Packers were in a very different place. They were the youngest team in the NFL in 2023. The Vikings, they're this collection of youth and all these signings. But I can remember Brian Gutekunst, middle of the season, the Packers were maybe 3-6 at the time. It was around the trade deadline, and the GM who stuck his neck out there, who drafted Jordan Love, and then traded Aaron Rodgers. He, in so many words, I was trying to look it up. I couldn't find the exact press conference, but it was said like the rest of the season we got to see what we have in Jordan Love. Like we don't know. That's kind of where the Vikings are. Like,
Yep.
And they've got to see what they have in JJ McCarthy. Nothing else matters more. And Love was from that day forward the best quarterback in football. That 2023 season, he gets the contract, and now they're a contender. Very different. This is year 2 for McCarthy, and they really haven't seen much of him, but that is the purpose of the rest of the season. And now that he's healthy, look, he's throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. There are worse places to be as a young quarterback. What's the upside here? Like, if this thing works out, what does it look like for JJ McCarthy? I mean, we saw Love just turn it on. A quarterback can just turn it on in the middle of November and be the best quarterback in the NFL.
You make a great point, though, is there's so much evidence historically to tell us we know nothing when it comes to quarterbacks, whether that's Mel Kiper trying to project Shedeur Sanders as a top 10 draft pick and missing by 4 rounds, 5 rounds. But look, it happens all the time, right? With quarterbacks where through even a sample size of their career, you're saying, and I was there for Jordan Love's low point because it was against the Minnesota Vikings. It was the game where Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. Love was absolutely horrible in that game. And it looked like, man, I think the Packers are in a lot of trouble. And then all of a sudden, the light goes on for him. I think the light also went on for Matt LaFleur of, hey, what do you have to do to design this offense to fit Jordan Love? But he needed a sample size of seeing him play to understand what he could see, what he can't see. I mean, I'm watching their offense the other day, and it looks like Denver Broncos 1998 with a lot of passes to the tight end underneath and then a deep shot every so often. Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan stuff like to a T. And that wasn't what they were doing initially, but they start, working through that and finding out what he can do. Well, Kevin O'Connell's got to figure out what JJ McCarthy can do. What throws does he succeed at? What does he struggle at? What can he see as far as defenses? What does he need? Because they don't know any of that. I mean, when you're trying to figure that out off of joint practices and things like that, I mean, that's just not any sort of sample size. So that's part of it as well. But even if you look at quarterbacks, and I've been looking at this a lot lately, who didn't have a lot of experience in college, which is the case for JJ McCarthy. He only threw 717 passes in college, which was about half of somebody like Bo Nix or Michael Penix. There haven't historically been a ton of quarterbacks that threw under 800 passes that immediately stepped in and were great. Like the best example is probably Alex Smith, who threw something around the same range of 700, 800 passes. It wasn't until his 4th or 5th season that the light came on for him. Also got good coaching and supporting cast, but it took a while. And so what they're looking for is signs over these 10 games. I don't think you can have in 10 games a clear-cut answer unless the guy is unbelievable, unless he just like he's playing like Drake May and he sets the world on fire and they win every game and go to the playoffs. Okay, then I think we know. But if he's 5-5 and there's been some good, some bad, then you're still approaching this like you're not totally sure about JJ McCarthy, and you have to look for somebody to have a quarterback competition with him. The situation on the whole has reminded me a lot of EJ Manuel, and I've brought this up with EJ Manuel. Kyle Orton is kind of the Carson Wentz here, where Manuel started out his career, some ups and downs, some we liked, some we didn't, then got hurt in that Browns game where he was scrambling, goes out of bounds, hurts the knee, misses a ton of development, comes back the next year. It's pretty underwhelming. He throws the interception to JJ Watt. He gets benched. And then you're sitting there going, well, we don't really know. He's part of a competition the next year, loses that competition to Tyrod Taylor, and then it's over. And so it can either happen that fast or that slowly like Alex Smith, or there's so many different paths that we've seen from this. But the one thing that does help here is that assuming that they get their offensive tackles back and healthy, which was a massive problem against the Chargers to not have the tackles, with the receivers that you mentioned, with the tackles, with the play caller, we know this stuff works if it's a good quarterback. If it's Sam Darnold, if it's Kirk Cousins, Kevin O'Connell is 32-12 with those guys starting under center. And you could say, well, Wentz struggled or McCarthy had a tough game against Atlanta or whatever. When quarterbacks know how to play, this thing works. So that at very least will give us, it's not like you're out there throwing to, whoever, a bad bunch of Troy Williamson and Bobby Wade or something. Like, you are throwing to premier wide receivers with an offense that we know has success. And if you can't do it by the end of this, or you can't show signs of doing it, then this franchise goes into, I think, complete peril, because you are talking about a cap situation that was built around the idea of JJ McCarthy working. And a lot of those players that haven't worked, TJ Hawkinson has underperformed on a huge contract, Allen, Hargrave. Now, how do you work your way out of that? Right. With no, I mean, not that anybody, is releasing good quarterbacks to go sign anyway. Right. So this 10 games is going to take, it's like the fork in the road for the entire franchise, for the entire Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell regime. It rests on these 10 games. And the biggest thing is JJ McCarthy can't get hurt either. He cannot get hurt again. Otherwise, it's pretty much like, okay, you're going to have to do something else. But it's really that pivotal for their future. So even though it doesn't matter, in my mind, to the NFC race, it sure does for the future of the NFC North.
They're 3-4. They're at Detroit, and then they host Baltimore. It's gonna be a different Ravens team, you would assume, with Lamar Jackson returning. Then you host Caleb Williams and the Bears, who you beat in week 1. Then at Green Bay, at Seattle, then Jane Daniels and the Commanders. It's not an easy schedule. I guess my bold prediction would be, I think the Vikings, they lose more than they win. They don't make the playoffs. But I still think that J.J. McCarthy turns it on. I think that Kevin O'Connell is too good. These receivers are too good. You have the tackles. Like, he is going to scheme this thing up, tell him where the open receiver is going to be. That open receiver might be the best in the business. And J.J. McCarthy is competent enough to put up really good numbers when healthy. So, and he's athletic to get out of trouble if, to your point, he stays healthy. So I think when we're having this conversation, at the end of the season, I think it is an upbeat conversation around JJ McCarthy in the future, even if they go 7-10. I don't know. I still have a hard time seeing this thing failing. This coach is too good, and the weapons are too good, unless you're just a bad quarterback, which maybe he is. Who knows? I don't know. I loved what I saw in that fourth quarter against Chicago. I kind of came around to what his Michigan career was, and looking through that in a different lens, I would be surprised if he struggles in this situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to figure, because when you make that decision and you know that you've seen Sam Darnold for a year and how good Sam Darnold could be, and you go to JJ McCarthy, I mean, it certainly suggests a lot of confidence, right? That you have in what you've seen behind the scenes, and they know JJ McCarthy better than we do. So that's a lot of confidence that Kevin O'Connell and this entire franchise have in this quarterback. And then when we watch training camp, I can't say that he has the physical tools of a Drake May. When they had joint practices with Drake May, McCarthy performed better, and Drake May wowed everyone who saw him play. And I don't think any of us thought that May was going to play quite like this because of his supporting cast, but he's just on a completely different level physically. But we've seen JJ McCarthy in training camp environments show that he can operate and execute an offense. And then, as you mentioned, that fourth quarter in Chicago, we saw that he could step up, use his athleticism, make some key throws. It's a great touchdown throw to Justin Jefferson in the end zone. He has another one along the sideline that is from the far hash all the way to the sideline. You see the arm strength. What it really comes down to for me is, can he play with the timing of the NFL? Because the thing about college is, I mean, just watch a college game and start counting in your head. Quarterback's got the ball, drops back to throw. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, he finally threw it to a wide open receiver. That's not the NFL. And he has so little time actually playing with this level of speed. Aiden Hutchinson is playing against him in his next game, right? I mean, this is totally different. This is a 2.5 second league where if you can get it out in 2.5 seconds, you're going to succeed. And if you can't, you're going to get killed. So that's what is going to be the biggest challenge for him is playing at the NFL speed when he has almost no experience actually doing it. But that's why, as you mentioned, like you've got to see signs. To me, the win-loss record does not matter for the rest of the way. 7-10, 6-11, do not care. As long as there are those signs of progress, I don't expect him to go out against the Lions and put up 38 points and go toe to toe with Jared Goff, the most underappreciated quarterback of an entire generation. I do not expect that to happen. But if he does what Jackson Dart is doing, which is, hey, there's a lot there, right? The Giants aren't ready to win, but there's a lot there. That would be a huge victory, which is moving the goalposts on the season. This was supposed to be all in, maybe not Super Bowl or bust because it's not like they have no future with all the good offensive players they have, but still, like this is supposed to be truly competing for a Super Bowl on your timeline, and you're not even close. So it's a massive disappointment. But at least if you can have McCarthy show those signs, there's going to be inaccuracies. There's going to be a game or two where you go, what in the world happened there? Like Bo Nix last year threw for 62 yards in a game. I mean, that's how it goes with young quarterbacks. But if they don't get those signs and it's just a complete struggle the rest of the way, then it's going to feel very, very empty. It's going to feel like a waste of a season that puts you way, way behind. And then we start having those discussions about hot seats and all that sort of thing after that, because that is life in the NFL. You can go from coach of the year to hot seat. It's happened many times.
Especially if it's Seattle against the Indianapolis Colts and Santa
Oh,
Clara for the
I
Super Bowl.
know. Yeah.
Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold.
Not
Uh,
impossible.
Not impossible. It will
Nope.
be. Yeah, it can go. It can go with one extreme or the other, and that's why we have you on, Matthew Coller, Purple Insider. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods, and of course the newsletter right on Substack. Matthew helped get me into that Substack world, as I mentioned many times. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.